Hey guys, I thought I'd start off this video showing you what material I selected for the storage cabinet giveaway. I hope I can show you how I do things and you can learn something from it. This is what we have. I have a 3/4 piece of mahogany plywood. This is a scrap piece I had left over from a job. It's in fairly good shape. Edges are a bit banged up, but we're going to address that. And I thought I would use that for the case of the cabinet. I'm going to use hardwood, solid mahogany for the face frame and for part of the door. I have an idea, I'm not sure if it'll work out, but I had an idea for a new style door. Using a piece of plywood for the door, hardwood edging for the edges, but leaving a reveal. I'll explain that later. But I had an idea that I don't think has been done yet, or if it has, I haven't seen it. So we'll get into that and I'll show you how I process the plywood to start and how I get the pieces prepped for building. My first step in breaking down the plywood into pieces that are manageable for me, also ensuring I have a straight line to work off of. I'll get into it more later, I guess, in future videos, but essentially, when you're working with sheet goods, you want to make sure you have a perfectly straight line, and then that's going to dictate everything else. So you're going to square off that one line. You're going to know that's good. You can use something called a jointer, which is this machine right here, which is essentially a giant electric hand plane, which will also give you a straight line, but not really the best thing to use for plywood. So what I opt to use is a track saw. This one's made by Festool. This is a 16-foot, I'm sorry, this is a little over an 8-foot piece. And this is the tool. You can see I've used it a few times. I've had this for years, by the way. Over 10 years, still works great. Never had to service it. This is one of my best tools I use. This circular saw essentially clicks into this track and rides along, and because the track is perfectly straight, when I cut it, I know this is perfectly straight. I don't want to bore you with details, but I think maybe it's important to explain as much as I can. So when I'm using this saw, the track saw, I have the vacuum hooked up, which goes to this vacuum. You can use all different kinds. This is a, I'm not sure how to say it, Fen or Fine, but it's a German company, slightly cheaper than the Festool vacuum. I also have Festool vacuums. This one I use in my shop for the majority of my work. I like it. As far as the saw goes, the plug is also plugged into the vacuum, so when I start cutting and I have it on this setting, it'll automatically turn on the vacuum, extract the dust from the cut, which not only is good for me and my lungs, but it'll also make the cut a little bit cleaner. So my first cut, I'm going to run this saw down here. I'm going to take off whatever I need to eliminate the damage. And then from there, we can start processing and cutting the rest of the wood. Okay, so we're gonna do our first cut with the track saw into the 3/4 mahogany plywood. I have the track lined up. As you can see, I have it overhanging a little bit in the beginning. If we walk down, I have it overhanging a little bit at the end. This will allow the saw to come through. I put this on there a few years ago. I basically line up that tape with the edge roughly. Let's see if this works out. We're gonna try this out. Okay, so I made my cut. As you can see, the blade cuts right on this edge of the track saw. Take that off. Let me slide this over so you can see. And then what we're left with is a very nice clean cut all the way down that we can reference off of for all of our future cuts. And we know this is perfectly straight. So if we square off this, meaning at a 90-degree angle like this, we know that that angle is correct. Now I want my cabinet to be 16 inches deep. So I got 16 inches deep. We're gonna times that by what is called the golden mean. There's a few other names. Basically, it's like pi. I know you're familiar with that, or I hope you are. That's 1.618. I'm not a math guy, I failed math, but this is very helpful. I can do a later video to explain this. 16 inches times 1.618 equals 25 7/8 roughly. So our board is going to be, there you go, perfect drawing, 16 inches by 25 7/8. 25 7/8, 16. That will automatically, according to nature, and if you want to get really weird, God, that'll make this appealing to your eye. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the plywood to that. So I'm going to have two pieces like this. I'm going to have the left and right side, and then we're going to use the same formula for the rest of the build. Again, I'll go in greater detail about how to use this. There's other ways of doing something to make it look pleasing. I have a few references, but for this build, we're going to use this, which is called the golden ratio, 1.618. It's hot in here. We're going to use the track saw like we did previously. We're going to use this specific product. You can look this up on the interwebs. And what this does is essentially make the track a square. So this and this is a 90-degree angle. So I know my cut, if this is on there, is going to be 90 degrees. So now we have our piece of wood. I know this edge and this edge are exactly 90. I need to cut this 16 inches for the depth of the cabinet. And then we're gonna also cut it this way to the measurement we talked about. I think it was 25 7/8. So I will come over here. I have a table saw here. I'm going to set this table saw to 16 inches. Lock this down. Raise the blade. Now I know that when I run this through the table saw, I'm going to get 16 inches exactly. And even if I'm a little bit over or under, I'm going to cut the sides, meaning the left and right side. So even if I'm a little bit off, I know that the sides will be exactly the same. That's very important for cabinetry. So when I'm done and I line everything up, they're going to correspond to each other and be dead on. I only have one hand here, so bear with me here. I'm going to do this safely with the camera off, but I'm going to cut this on the table saw and we'll go from there. Okay, so I made my cuts. I have these panels here, 16 inches from here to here. Let's check that real quick. That seems good to me. Now that I have the two panels cut for the left and right side, I have them right here. I'm going to try to do this with one hand, but you can see we have the left and the right. So my next step is to cut the bottom and top of the piece. Now that'll be the same 16 inches, but I want to subtract the thickness of the left and the right. So a common problem with plywood is that when you put them together like this and you measure them, they're not necessarily going to be 3/4. Usually not. They're a little bit under. So a way to get around that, I'll show you. You can lay these guys down flat, take your tape measure, and then you're going to lay the 16 on the edge like so. And if you see, so I want to cut my panel to 14, and it looks like, let's see here, 14.5. Roughly, just to be sure. Okay, so I cut this panel 16 inches this way. Now we're going to set the saw to 14.5. Right about there. Lock it in. We're going to turn this on. Make sure our dust collector is on. And then cut the panel. Okay, now after doing all that, we have our basic cabinet construction starting to take shape. We have our 25 7/8. We have our 16 inches this way. I clamped it up just so you could see. Now, again, or I shouldn't say again, but in my previous video, I talked about the design of this build. I have not yet. I remembered that while I was doing the video, but for this one, I was trying to do a cabinet that was somewhat easy to make, and I'm trying to break some rules here. But you see I have mostly plywood construction. Obviously we want to get rid of this plywood edge, which we're going to take care of with the face frame. We also have this exposed plywood up top. We're going to get rid of that. I have a plan for that. And then we're going to make a door here with the brass mesh inserted into the door. We'll get to that more later, but essentially we're looking at what is the beginning of a cabinet. Okay, now we have a few options here to join these pieces together. So we could use screws or nails or glue through here into this piece, which would be fairly strong actually. But then you're going to see the screw hole. We're going to cover that later. That's okay. Or we can use what's called a pocket screw, which would be a screw that comes in on an angle like this. You would only see it from the top piece here, joining into there. We could use a Festool domino, which would be, you would see no screws. You would have essentially a piece of wood used similar to a screw, glued in like this down here. I'll show you that on the next clip, or we could just glue it and put some nails in there. Definitely not the best choice. We have to consider what we're going to do with our design. So I know I want to put a top on here, so I know this is going to be covered anyway. So best not to put a screw through here or any joinery or nail or anything. I'd rather a pocket screw through here and some glue, which would be plenty strong. And then we're going to cover this with a solid mahogany top. There's numerous variations of this. If you have any ideas or comments and you want to explain how you would do it, that's fine. I have a few different options that I could do. For this particular build, we're going to do this. We're going to put a pocket screw through here, here, and here, all around, and then we're going to cover that with a solid piece of mahogany. In future videos, I'll explain all different kinds of joinery, including plywood, solid wood, mortises, dovetails, all kinds of stuff. But for now, this is the best option for me. Okay, so we're going to put about 3 pocket screws into the top and bottom of our cabinet. There's all different options for this pocket screw application, but for now we're going to use this machine, which I have. It's a good machine. It's not super expensive. I use it all the time. It works great. We're going to line our piece up. I have a preset stop right there. We're going to pull this handle down here, and it's going to drill from the bottom a basically 45-degree angle through the piece, which will make sense later. Okay, we're going to put some pocket hole screws in this piece, the top of the cabinet. As you can see, I have it lined up with the stop. You can use a different option to do this. They sell cheaper versions of this where you can use a hand drill, but for now we're going to use this. I have it lined up, pushed and registered right on there. I'm going to grab the handle here, pull down, and when I pull back and lift it, you will see a pocket hole joint. Okay, so we have our bottom and left side lined up for our cabinet. I have it clamped up. That's important when you put pocket screws in, because this could move this way or this way depending on the way you put the screw in. So I have clamps, good pressure. We're going to take a pocket screw. In this case, I have an impact driver. You could use a regular drill, doesn't matter. This is easier for me. We're going to put that in there. If you notice that, but the joint got really tight right there. We're going to put another one on there, right? And then we're going to put one more. Okay guys, so we have our basic carcass of the finished cabinet pocket screwed together. You can see here we have all that screwed in. If I flip it over, same thing on the bottom. All right, so that is the first part of the several videos for this post. I did not expect it to take so long. I may be over explaining things. I'm trying my best. This is my first real attempt at making a solid video on YouTube. I should say I'm definitely learning, and I know now I should at least put my camera sideways for a better viewing experience. I think we're in this together, and if you're following along and appreciating the video, the quality of the production will get better as we go along. I do have a lot of stuff planned. I'm gonna have some guests on to help me make some furniture and to teach them different techniques I know. I think consistently I'll give away everything I make from this point forward. If you are subscribed, you're automatically eligible to win this piece of furniture. And if you're not, please subscribe. And I guess I really appreciate the chance to do this. I know I'm not really good at it yet, but I was definitely not good at woodworking when I first started, and I got better at it. So bear with me and follow along. We'll get better at this, and I hope I can help someone learn. And thank you very much for following along. I appreciate it.